Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Megan. I'm a BACP registered therapist here in the UK, and I work with supporting women in the perinatal period, so all of the challenges and transitions of pregnancy and postpartum. And in today's video, we're going to be covering a topic which I get asked an awful lot as a therapist, and that is how do you go about finding the right therapist for you? So maybe you've reached the point now of taking that huge step to get yourself some valuable support, but you're left wondering or overwhelmed by what steps to take next to find someone that's not only suitably qualified and registered, but also feels a good fit for you. So in this video, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know, so hopefully you feel ready to take those next steps. The first important point to consider is making sure that the therapist is suitably qualified to practice. And currently in the UK, the titles of therapist, psychotherapist, counsellor are not protected titles. And what that means is that anybody is able to call themselves one of these things. So in order to ensure that the person is suitably qualified, what you can do is check that they are registered with one of the main professional bodies. And in the UK, this will be the BACP, the NCPS, or the UKCP. And if a therapist is on one of those registers, what that ensures is that they've passed a minimum level of training and also experience level. And it also means that they are adhering to ongoing ethical requirements in the standards to which they practice, and also that they will have professional requirements such as suitable insurance and CPD carried out each year. So each of these professional bodies has a register on their website, and each member of the body will have a registration number. So you will be able to check the registration number of the therapist and ensure that is listed also on their professional body's website to ensure they are in fact a member that is actively registered with them. With that important check out of the way, the next points to consider focus more on your preferences for working with a therapist. And one of the first things to consider here is what it is that you wish to work upon in therapy or what goals you may want to reach. And many therapists, like myself, we will work in a specialist area. And here we will have specialist knowledge and education and experience, which will mean that we're better equipped to understanding the challenges you're experiencing and also how we can possibly work together to reach the goals that you ultimately want to reach. Just a note here that, of course, very rarely do our problems fit in neat categories. And as therapists, we do also have that general training, that initial training, which means that even if we work in a specialist area, we are able to work outside of that as well when there's overlapping challenges that you may be experiencing. So another point to consider here is the type of therapy which feels best suited to you. As you may have seen, there's a huge range of approaches to therapy out there, and that can become quickly overwhelming. I'll also link in the description a helpful website which gives a general broad overview of the main types of therapy that you may come across. And what I'd say here is by no means feel that you have to become an expert in all these types of therapy, but just having an overview and an initial thought about ways or any preferences that you might have both in how you work or how you definitely don't want to work can just be a good starting point in helping to find a therapist that's best suited to you. So some things you may want to consider are whether you would prefer therapy that's more explorative or whether it's more focusing on a specific problem and how to fix it. You may prefer, for example, focusing more on past experiences or instead focusing more on the present experiences and future goals. And then you may have preferences around things like if you do or don't want to have homework tasks allocated to you. And just having an idea if any of these really appeal or really just don't appeal can be a good starting point. And from there, you can look for matches in therapist profiles, or of course reach out to them. So for example, I have a contact form on my website, and that's an ideal place to reach out with any questions about how I practice and if that would be or wouldn't be suited to what you're looking for. Another preference to consider is the practical aspects of the therapy sessions. So for example here, do you have a preference for working in person or online? If working online, things to consider are if you will be able to get a private space, and of course making sure that you have a good internet connection, and if you're wanting to use webcam, you have the facilities to do that. Also considering your availability for therapy and checking with the therapist if they offer the same session time each week or if there's option to change session times each week, again depending on your preference. Another thing to check is if you have a preference for how often you want therapy. So in some cases therapists may offer more ad hoc sessions or less regular sessions, for example monthly or fortnightly sessions, whereas some therapists may only offer weekly regular sessions. So you've got an idea of what to look for in a therapist, and now to consider where you may look for a therapist. So directory is a really good starting point. Each of the main professional bodies has a directory on their website, and I'll also link those in the description below, along with other directories such as Counselling Directory and Psychology Today. You also may find therapists on social media, and this is also a good way, of course, for getting a feel for the therapist and how they may work. And of course there's always Google, which is also great for finding local options. And again, if you're wanting to work with a therapist who's got a specialism in a particularly niche area, Google can be a good place to search for that as well. So the last point that we're going to consider is one that the research shows over and over again is the best indicator for if therapy is going to be successful, and that is the relationship that you have with the therapist. So those relationships which are positive and strong and productive are shown to lead to the best outcomes in therapy. Now, of course, when you're initially looking for a therapist, these types of relationships take time to build, so it may be difficult to fully assess how successful that relationship can be. But I'll go through a few points that you may want to consider initially when you're perhaps reading through the therapist profile or looking at their social media or having that first appointment with them. And things to consider can include if you feel that over time you would be able to trust the therapist, if you feel that over time you will be able to speak honestly with the therapist about the challenges that you're experiencing, and if you feel that that therapist is someone that you have the ability to feel supported by. And these are some good initial pointers to help guide you in finding that right person for you. So we've come to the end of the video for today, and hopefully you're leaving with a clearer idea of your next steps. And of course, I wish you all the best with what is ahead of you. I hope that you're able to find a therapist that is that right match for you, and that you're able to reach those goals that you have for therapy and able to reach the point that you want to in your life. Of course, if you have any suggestions for future videos that you'd like me to create, then please leave those in the comments below. And I'll also leave my website in the description below if you're interested in finding out more about me and how I work and my practice. So take care, and bye until next time.